Hey everyone, welcome to Sticks and Sips, the Drew Estate Virtual Happy Hour. Welcome to episode 6. I want to welcome you guys all for, I'm Frankie Drinks, the Cigar and Spirits Pairing Ambassador for Drew Estate Cigars. And this is Sticks and Sips, our big virtual happy hour, duplicated but never replicated. This is what we do. We hang out, we talk about spirits, we talk about cigars, we have a good time. And tonight, I've got a really incredible show. I'm super excited. Green is the theme. Tonight is when Scotland meets Kentucky, meets Nicaragua. And I couldn't be more excited for the menu tonight. So let's see what's on the menu tonight. Our special guest tonight is Master Ambassador from Beam Suntory, Mr. Simon Brooking. Also have Chris Gwaltney from ABC, the Cigar Man. Humidor Chris is on here. Our sips for tonight, we're sipping Laphroaig 10, and we're also sipping a little quarter cask. I'm going to sneak that one in tonight. And our stick for the evening, what could be a better pairing for a peated Laphroaig deliciousness than a Kentucky fire-cured cigar? So I'm burning my peat. I'm carrying the green theme with my Yoda and everything, so I'm ready to go. Let's check into the Zoom lounge. This is where we're hanging out. I'm hanging out with my best buds at the bar, so let's see who's in the Zoom lounge tonight.
Yo,
hey,
what's
guys.
going on?
Hey, Frank.
What's
Cheers.
up? You guys doing?
We Cheers, good, buddy. Going?
Good. So just let me go quick.
A better net.
Listen, I know you guys are enjoying your Laphroaig tonight, and that's a great thing. It's a great place to get started. I'll go around the room. Chris Brower from Drew Estate. Say hello, Chris.
Hello. How's it going?
We got Joey from Drew Estate, our creative director. Joey, say hello to everybody.
Hey, what's going on? Fire it up, people.
Yeah, you got the scarf. Let's get smoky. Oh, this is all about the smoke. It's all about the fire tonight. I'll tell you that. So Chris Gwaltney from ABC. What's up, brother?
What up, man? Hey, it's all about the green. How about that Swamp Thing KFC, baby, right here?
Oh, yeah, you're going. It's all about the green, smoke, and fire.
Yes,
I've got
sir.
Mr.
Yes,
Felipe Ojeda, co-founder of the Miami Whiskey Mash. Welcome.
Cheers. Slange.
What's up?
Slancha. And Mr. Simon Brooking, all the way from the middle of the peat bog in Isla. It's a little windy. Cheers, Simon.
It's fresh here. It's fresh here tonight. So it's a good night for a whiskey, Slanja, and a cigar.
Fantastic. Slancha. Well, welcome, guys. So this is it, man. We're ready to get started with the Drew Estate Virtual Happy Hour. And what's a happy hour without a cocktail? So I made something kind of special. I took some ideas from different guys that had done some special stuff, and I came up with something called the Isla Campfire. So let's see what's in the Isla Campfire. I went with 2 ounces of Laphroaig 10, little 1 ounce of black tea, little ½ ounce of lemon juice, little orange marmalade, and I wanted to do something that was shaken, but in a rocks glass over a big rock. So let's look at the directions on there. Super easy for you guys that are taking notes at home. You basically put everything in a shaker, shake till really well chilled, and you want to strain it. You may want to double strain it over to get some of the pieces of the marmalade out, and then you want to garnish it. So you want to see me do it? Well, let's roll that footage. So you always want to use good ice. You always, Laphroaig being used in a lot of different cocktails lately. You know, once upon a time, they said you can use a peated whiskey in a cocktail, and that's not true. It's amazing, delicious. This is a riff on a sour. You know, sours date back to the late 1800s, and that's kind of the template. And like any good cocktail with citrus, you want to shake that. You want to shake it really well. You want to break up the citrus. In this case, you want to also break up the marmalade. And then, like I said, you want to double strain it just to get rid of all the little bits on there. And you end up with something really refreshing and delicious. I've got mine, with me right now. So I would say cheers, slancha. It's just a really great cocktail, especially with the KFC. It kind of refreshes the palate, that little bit of lemon, that little bit of sweetness from the orange, and you get that smoke from the whiskey. Just combines, just makes a great cocktail, especially if you're having a cigar on a warm evening here in South Florida, or wherever you are, be it New York, be it Isla, be it Jacksonville, be it Weston. So I raise a glass to you guys. So I hope you drink along with me. And Sancha. Wow, that is pretty tasty if I do say so myself. So let's get the party started. So today I'm incredibly honored to be hosting someone that I've met over the past few years as co-founder of Miami Whiskey Mash. This gentleman came and did amazing presentations with Beam Suntory. Fortunate enough to have kept in contact over the years, and I'm so honored that he's here. So just a little bit of background: he's the guy I call the master ambassador, because I don't think there aren't too many people in the business better at what he does than he is. He represents a pretty large portfolio. I may miss one or two: the Ardmore, Bowmore, Auchentoshan, Glengarry, and last but not least, Laphroaig. And he's over 20 years in the business, but more importantly, I call him the master of toast. So with that, please welcome Mr. Simon Brooking.
Cheers, Frank. Oh, flower of Scotland, when will we see your likes again, that fought and died for the wee bit hill and glen, and stood against him, proud Edward's army, and sent him homeward to think again. Cheers. Slange, you got them all. Frank, you got all our whiskeys, except we've also got a blended Scotch as well. Teacher's Highland Cream blended Scotch. Fabulous blended whiskey.
I told you I would miss one, but if that's at least only miss one. But look, I couldn't be more honored to have you on. You know, I'm a big fan. I'm a fanboy, and I'm not the only one here that's a fanboy. There's a room full of fanboys, and so I don't know how that should make you feel. I hope it makes you feel honored.
It makes me feel a little bit closer to everyone now in this era of social distancing. And in fact, I brought a couple of good friends to the table, to the fire tonight to join me, because with these fantastic cigars and whiskey, I wanted to share as well. So it's all about sharing and that social experience, which I hope we can all bring us all together again soon. Slanjava!
Well, absolutely. You definitely capture the spirit of spirits and cigars. Is that it is a social thing, and we will get through this COVID-19 period, and we look forward to sharing a dram again soon.
And a
yes.
to start off with the cocktail, and I should point out that there's some marmalade that there's a woman actually on the west coast of Scotland that makes Laphroaig marmalade. So if you want a double dose of the smoke, you can buy McKinnon's. It's available on the island. It comes under the name of McKinnon's marmalade. Fantastic.
Well, that sounds amazing. Smoke over smoke over smoke. I mean, what could get any better? So I know you had a cocktail earlier, so I hope you enjoyed it. It's really nice, and it's a great way to show off, I think, Laphroaig 10. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of cocktails right now. They're doing a penicillin straight with Laphroaig, and that's really amazing. Some guys called me up. I'm doing a pina colada with Laphroaig, and it's like amazing. You know, just they're taking in places that weren't accustomed to having a peated whiskey before.
Yeah, the smoky pina is really our favorite new cocktail, and as the weather starts to get warmer, perfect way to cool yourself by the beach or by the pool. Of course, you don't really need to cool yourself when you're on Isla, because it's already fairly cool there. It's not Florida temperatures. It's a little bit cooler.
Well, Simon, I'm going to ask you a question you probably get asked many, many times, but I think people want to know. First of all, how'd you get started down the road of Whiskey Ambassador?
Well, I've been doing this for 23 years now. Was working in New York. Had an interview. I had the kilt. I had the accent. I drank whiskey. I got the job. And I've been doing it ever since, originally with Dewars, and then I worked with the classic malts, Diageo, and that was an amazing training with some of the best in the business. From there, I went from a huge portfolio with the Diageo to one distillery, the Dalmore, which was owned by Jim Beam at the time. So that was really a very special time for me, working with some of the greats in the business, including Richard Patterson. Everyone knows him as the Nose. And then we sold off, Beam sold off Dalmore, and that's when we took on Laphroaig 13 years ago. And I've been working as long as some of the ages of the whiskeys that we produce. So it's quite an honor to work for Laphroaig and Ardmore, a Highland peated, smoky Highland. And then when Suntory purchased Beam, that was when I also took on Bowmore from Isla as well. And as you mentioned, Auchentoshan. And the fifth one, which is another really fun one to learn how to pronounce, is Glengarioch, Garioch.
I gave it my best. I gave it my best.
That's it. We appreciate the effort. I'll drink to that.
Yeah, it's not Glengarioch, everyone. It's Glengarioch.
Exactly.
So Simon, I know, we've met at Whiskey Fest before, when I was working as an ambassador as well. And I think a lot of people never get to truly understand what the life of an ambassador is like. And I know things are different now, but give us looking in the rearview mirror, what life was like as an ambassador.
Yeah, prior to the middle of March, I was doing about 10,000 miles a month, traveling across the United States from Seattle to San Diego to Miami to Boston and everywhere in between. It's not as glamorous as the lifestyle seems to be. There's a lot of work. We're doing whiskey tastings at 10 o'clock in the morning. Yes, that is work. And then we are doing luncheons and then trainings in the afternoon, and then dinners and then cocktails in the evening. So it's a grueling schedule, I'm telling you. I'm very happy. It's a great lifestyle because I get to meet folks like yourself and Felipe and the folks at Drew Estate, and the customers are really the people who we do this for, and we're rewarded by the experiences that they bring back to us of their times with whiskey, whether it's at home or at their favorite bar, or going to the island of Isla to visit Laphroaig.
Well, you said it sounds glamorous, but we do know it is hard work, and I know the type of work that it takes, and knowing the amount of work you put in for Laphroaig and for all the other whiskeys, not easy, but truly an impact that is felt by all consumers in whatever way. So I drink to you. As my good friend says, I'll drink to that, but you'll drink to anything. But I do drink to that. So salute to you. And cheers. And with that, we're going to talk a little bit about these wonderful whiskeys, because I've got mine and I'm ready to start tasting. But before we go there, would you regale us with another toast?
Absolutely. So, this is, may the best you've ever seen be the worst you'll ever see. May a moose never leave your pantry with a teardrop in his eye. May you all be hale and hearty till you're old enough to die. I wish you all the best, as I wish you all to be. Cheers, Slanja.
Cheers, Slanja. That's actually one of my favorite toasts, Simon. So thank you so much on that. So let's do a little searching here. So a little exploration. So we're gonna start with Laphroaig 10. So let's throw that slide up for a second, if we could. So Laphroaig 10, obviously a beautiful one. We could throw up the next slide if possible. All right, so Laphroaig 10. Simon, instead of everyone reading off of that, why don't you walk us through Laphroaig 10?
Absolutely. Laphroaig 10, the #1 selling Isla single malt. This whiskey is the one that really, I think, put Isla on the map. Although there are amazing distilleries on Isla. We're a half a mile down the road from Lagavulin. At the end of the road is Ardbeg. Central portion of the island, you've got Beaumont, and then across the bay, Bruichladdich. And then just to the northwest of that, you've got Kilcoman, and up to the northeast, you've got Kalila, Bunnahabhain, and of course the newest one's Ardnahoe. But Laphroaig, we have been making the same recipe for over 100 years now. It was the Johnston brothers who were the farmers who started this distillery back in the latter part of the 18th century. Got the license to do it legally, 1823. On the bottle, it says established 1815. And that's actually the year that English first started taxing whiskey production. So instead of established 1815, it should probably read 1815, the year the taxman caught us. 1847, Donald Johnston, one of the brothers, fell into a vat of burnt pot ale at the distillery, succumbed to his injuries. So we like to say there's a little bit of the Johnston family in every bottle of Laphroaig. Gives it that extra body, right? So, but Laphroaig was being used for blending purposes primarily in the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century. But it has long been used. The single malt category really didn't come into being until the second part of the 20th century. It was really only being used for blending purposes. But there was so much whiskey available after World War II. A couple of distilleries started promoting single malt as a category, Glenlivet and Glenfiddich. Now, those are different region, different style. Laphroaig, that Isla style off the southwest coast of Scotland, it is a peaty style because on the island it's raining 320 days a year horizontally. So it's a very damp place to live and make whiskey. So as a result, it takes longer to dry the barley, and that's why our whiskeys are considered smoky, peaty whiskeys, because of the fuel source we use to dry the barley. When we say 10 years at Laphroaig, that's a minimum age of this bottling. It's 10, 11, 12, 13 years old whiskeys. We're going to marry 250 barrels. It's going to go into a marrying tank that's got 20% of the last batch. So we're maintaining consistency of flavor. And then we add water, bring it down to bottling strength of 43% for North America. Everywhere else in the world, it's 40%. But we love the body. You've got that maritime style, the salt, the smoky quality, but we're also using Maker's Mark bourbon barrels. So you're getting vanilla caramel notes as well from those bourbon notes, lactones that are going to give you coconut notes. There's a lot of layers, and there are floral notes to Laphroaig. You'll see that in some of the older expressions like lore.
Well, that's
so.
A quick question on the 10. This is kind of the Laphroaig that everyone, the entry level Laphroaig. Would you agree with that?
It is an entry level for some. We've actually got a new one called Laphroaig Select, which is a marriage of 5 different types of casks. For us at Laphroaig, longer in the barrel or more touches of wood, you're going to get less smoke, more the influence of the wood. So the Select is basically a 5 wood. So you're going to get more of those different casks influencing flavor, and the smoke's going to come later in the finish. The 10 years, young, robust, boisterous, a bold whiskey. For some people, they feel like they're sitting by the fire. For others, they feel like they're standing in the fire. So it can be a good experience, or it can be a not so good experience. But for a long time, we've always said, Laphroaig, you'll get there is one of our campaigns. It's not an instant get for a lot of people. That means it's just more for us, right?
Absolutely. I listened to an interview you did, or I guess it was another presentation you did with John Campbell, and you talked about quarter cask, and quarter cask being the bourbon drinkers Isla whiskey. And so I'm gonna sip a little quarter cask right now, and kind of walk me through what quarter cask.
Yeah, absolutely. Quarter cask is our second biggest seller. It is we've taken the idea of the smaller barrels that were used to bring the whiskey to market back in when the Johnston brothers were bringing their whiskey to market back in the 19th century. The quarter cask is 125 liters. It's a smaller barrel. Two men can lift and put onto the side of a pack horse and bring it to market. And so by putting it in the smaller barrel, you're getting more surface contact wood to whiskey. So you're getting more of those bourbon influenced notes, the American white oak. So that's, I call it the wild child. It's a lively little whiskey. And one of the things I encourage folks to do is explore the dynamics of the taste experience. How does the whiskey move in your mouth? The 10-year kind of rolls right back through the middle for me, whereas this one dances a little bit more, does a little jig side to side. It's a little up and down. It really gets you going.
Well, we had the pleasure of doing a Burns night dinner with you a few years back, and I distinctly remember one specific dish was smoked cobia, and we did it with the quarter cask. And when you can still remember the one dish you had with the one thing, and it just left such a huge impression because it was so delicious, the combination of it. And it's absolutely right. It is very bright on the palate, and it's very, very flavorful. It carries a punch, but it's quite delicious on the finish, and very and different enough from the 10.
Yep, the lads with me tonight. We're not being very fancy with our food pairing. We've got a good chili with some cornbread with our Laphroaig.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Absolutely. Simon, go back and tell us. We're talking, even though 1815 or 1823. My good friend Robin Robinson always, when he's talking about the history of whiskey, always talks about the role of the taxman. So. But as you're looking at a brand that has 200 years of history, and yet it is still Isla Peateds are a small part of the market, how do you see it growing?
Well, you have to consider at one time Isla. Right now, it seems like it's a very isolated place. In fact, the Elochs, the islanders in the Gaelic language, Eloch, Isla, the folks on Isla invented social distancing. It was a place for them to be able to get away from the politics and the government back in the 16th and 17th and 18th century. But actually, because of their location, when the waterways were the highways of the day, that was really, it was more centrally located. So it was very easy to move up and down the coast and move up through the waterways, the rivers, the River Clyde. So it actually was a more of a central location. But then when the railways came in and the roads got better in Scotland, that was when people moved away from the Isla style. So Isla became a little bit more isolated at that time, but perfect for making whiskey. And as you were saying, the taxman, you can see the taxman coming from miles away on his wee rowboat to come to collect the taxes. And even today, when the policeman arrives on Isla, there's usually a phone call going around the island to everybody saying, make sure you've got your inspection stickers on your cars up to date, because the policemen are back on the island. Isla was such a great place. There was so much barley being grown in the 18th century that there were so many whiskey men. The laird of the island actually opened up a brewery to dissuade the whiskey men from making whiskey, because it was seen as, it was a bit of a blight. There was a lot of drinking going on and overconsumption. So, well, we'll just make it a beer out of it. But nobody would make the beer or buy the beer. They were much more interested in the whiskey itself. And today, where do we see it going? Well, there's, Ardnahoe is a new distillery that opened up, started producing last year. Port Ellen is reopening on Isla. There is, and that would be the 10th distillery. There is an 11th distillery in the works right now, and a 12th distillery on Isla. So business is good on the island. The biggest challenge is just water. That's one of the biggest ingredients for making whiskey. So you need to make sure that you have enough water and you're not taking from your neighbor's water.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've heard you speak about the distillery itself, and it was kind of the most surprising thing to hear. You say Laphroaig, and you expect a huge amount of employees at Laphroaig, and tell us how many people you do have working at Laphroaig, the distillery.
Yeah, total operational staff at Laphroaig today is 17 people. And really, you've got one mashman, you've got a stillman, you've got your warehousemen. They usually work in groups of 2 or 3, and then you've got your maltmen who are basically the farmers on site who are growing and drying the barley. They're usually working in teams of 2. But on the weekend, because we're making 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the weekend there's just your mashman and the stillman that are working. The malting is not happening, or the warehousing. So it's a very, very small operation. People think it's a big factory. It's an old farm on an island off the coast of Scotland.
I think that that's one of the most amazing stories to achieve that type of world recognition, to be considered the top of your class. If there is a thing called Isla single malt whiskey, right? Because there's different varieties grown in Isla, and it's not just all peated, correct?
That's correct. Not all of the whiskeys are peated. Bunnahabhain has most of theirs are unpeated variants, but Bunnahabhain was used a lot in the earlier years for blending purposes. But Bunnahabhain's come in unto its own right as well today, and they do peated variants as well. But certainly Laphroaig Isla is known for its peat. But as I mentioned earlier, there's peat in the Highlands. At the Ardmore distillery in Glengarry was a distillery pre-1996 that was using Highland peat. But the peat in the Highlands is more decomposed pine trees. The peat on the island of Isla is more decomposed seaweed. So it's like the difference between sitting around a campfire in the forest versus sitting around a bonfire on the beach. Isla is that beach bonfire.
Well, I think that that's fantastic. It's fantastic. So, hey, someone get us out of traffic. Anyway, but I'm going to go way, way back. And for the uninitiated that are afraid of the peated whiskey, they've had their blendeds and they know their Scotch, but they're a little trepidatious about going down the peated, rabbit hole. What would you say to them?
Well, we do. I mentioned Laphroaig Select as a good starter Laphroaig. I call it my breakfast Laphroaig. But we also have Auchentoshan from the lowlands of Scotland, and that's an unpeated variant. There's no peat on that. We've got somebody else who's coming into the circle. Mike, come on in, join us at the table here.
Welcome, Mike.
We're very popular in the neighborhood tonight. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so the lowland whiskeys and Highlands for the most part are unpeated as well, but peated whiskeys become a whole category unto itself because of the following and the range of styles that are available. Another one, certainly from the Orkneys, you've got Highland Park. That's for you.
Well, I'm gonna put up one more slide, and it's when I discovered this slide. By the way, your branding team is amazing. They do some amazing work, especially with Show Us Your Laphroaig Face and all those nice campaigns that they've done and the advertising. So if we could throw up that last slide, and I don't know if you could see this, Simon, but it's the Laphroaig 10. It says, the smoke that will make any cigar blush. And I thought that was one of the best ads I've ever seen. It will make any cigar blush, but probably not the KFC Ketucky Fire Cured, which I think is a great pairing with that. So, Simon, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, being part of it. please don't go anywhere. I want you to hang out in the Zoom lounge because we're going to hit you with some questions in a few minutes. So take a little break, enjoy your cigar, enjoy your cocktail, enjoy your Laphroaig. And before you go into the Zoom lounge, please, one more toast.
All right. So since we've got the Ketucky Friar cigar there with the Laphroaig Quarter Cask, I'll offer you. This is to the wild child. Here's to fighting, cheating, stealing, and drinking. If you fight, may you fight alongside my brother. If you cheat, may you cheat death. If you steal, may you steal another's heart. And if you drink, may you drink with me. Cheers.
Cheers. Slancheva.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you so much, guys. That was truly amazing. If you ever get an opportunity to hear Simon speak, and you can listen to him for hours, and I wish we could have a 2-hour long program because he could definitely fill it with his knowledge about just not only Isla whiskeys but all Scotch whiskeys and all the products that make drinking and enjoying Scotch and that enormous amount of knowledge is so high valued. And if you ever get to do a Burns night with him, I highly suggest it. I don't care what the cost is. Pay it. You're going to enjoy it. It'll be amazing. So with that, I've got my good friend coming up. He's been hanging out. He's got a brand new step and repeat backdrop on him that I'm so excited to have. So Mr. Chris Gwaltney from ABC.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Dude, it's going awesome, man. It's great to have you here.
Perfect night for me to come back, man. You know why? Because it is my life goal to make sure that anyone who's part of cigar culture and loves cigars has got to give Pete a chance, man. So many people it's the perfect combination with cigars. You got smoky Scotch and you're smoking a cigar. Doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely. And when we were talking about this show, when we were talking about when we would come up on this, I was like, I definitely want to do a peated whiskey show. And the first guy was like, Chris has got to be on there because he understands, because the KFC can be polarizing for some. Laphroaig can be polarizing for some. It's because they don't know it. They don't know it. And it's hard to embrace the unknown. But once you go with these two together, it's like it's a brand new world opens up for you.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And like I said, it's my goal in life to get more people to give it a shot. I think most people, when they try Isla Scotch, they probably tried it at a time when they really weren't ready for it. They hadn't experienced other things. I think you got to do it, man. You got to do it. And like with anything, I say, look, when you drink the Scotch, if you've never had it before, if you've had it and you didn't like it, you take that first sip, you just it's a palate adjuster, right? Just forget about it. And then you take the next sip, and when you swallow, you exhale through your nose a little bit, and you'll pick up a little honey, a little sweetness on the retrohale, just like you kind of retrohale a cigar. And it's just amazing, man. It's absolutely one of my no doubt about it. My favorite pairing with a cigar is Isla Scotch, and don't get any better than this one right here.
Well, that's I'll drink to that, like JD says. So, but Chris, I know you were with me on episode 1. We're on episode 6 now. It seems like forever, right?
Right.
So
man, awesome.
let's remind everybody what you do for ABC, because I just told it's ABC Chris.
Yeah, well, folks that don't know, I'm basically the cigar guy. I take care of all the premium cigar products for ABC, managed category, corporate buyer. I buy all the products and make sure we have, for all the Drew Estate fans out there, make sure all the ABC stores in the state of Florida and our e-commerce site, thehumidor.com, has plenty of cigars and plenty of Drew Estate products. So you can do these great pairings.
Let me tell you, and then just a little bit about ABC, because I think most people in Florida should know ABC, but some other people may not because they're outside of Florida. Tell us a little bit about ABC.
Well, we're a family-owned chain here in the state of Florida. We started right at the end of Prohibition, not like Laphroaig, who was we started after the tax man. We legit, a lot of people think no, we didn't start selling liquor until after Prohibition. But we've going in our fourth generation of family-owned business, and the fourth generation getting ready to take the reins here. And I mean, it's phenomenal. You got a great family business, and you got a great state. Obviously, in Florida, we love to drink down here. Whether it's just a sunny day, stops raining for a little while, or a hurricane's coming, we like to drink and we like to celebrate and have a good time. So, and we've, social distancing has not kept us from enjoying our beverages and enjoying our cigars.
Well, luckily, I believe beverages are way up. Beverage sales have been way up during the quarantine, and hopefully we'll get the on-premise going safely, and we'll keep on getting those sales up and running. And we've been fortunate enough to have ABC as a partner, where during these times people have been able to get their cigars, their Drew Estate cigars. And tonight we're featuring the KFC Fat Molly, which is a Robusto. It's a 5x56, and for the guys that don't know, San Andres wrapper, binder Nicaraguan, filler is Nicaraguan Brazilian, and Kentucky fire cured. And on that one, I'm gonna let my man Chris Brower, because just lurking around that Zoom lounge, man. So I'm gonna bring Chris Brower in to talk about. He looked kind of bored. So Chris, man, run me through the KFC, man, because I know that this is such a crazy process that goes into the KFC. Why don't you help me run through that?
Well, what I like to tell people about the fire cure is that it is a non-traditional cigar, very much non-traditional. We sorry, we cure the tobacco using hickory, maple, oak. We're using this smoke that infuses into the tobacco, and when you smell the cigar, you get this strong peaty aroma. But the cigar itself is medium, it's mellow. It's got a lot of amazing characteristics to it outside of the smoke that's present in the nose.
So just to give everyone an idea, so we're taking that Kentucky leaf, and we're when we go to cure it. So after we've harvested the leaf, we're putting it up in our curing barns, and then we've got the smoke pots that are going off, and they're curing that cigar over 5-7 days. And it's very, very similar to the malting floor, where we get that we're peating the malt, and that smoke survives the process, because when we take that leaf after it's been smoked, we're going to take it down, we're going to ferment it. So it goes through the whole fermentation process, the whole breaking down of the actual leaf itself, and in the big pilon. And then we're going to age it. And then after we age it, then we're going to blend it into the cigar. So after all that smoky goodness still makes it through that entire process. And that's where there's a similarity between KFC and Laphroaig. And many times when I've talked about pairings, we talked about reinforcement or contrast to create a complement. And this is total reinforcement. We're talking smoke, and we're talking smoke, and both of them together, it's what I call bacon on a cheeseburger. We're just adding to it. So Chris, I know, Chris G. I'm going to Chris G now. Chris Galtney.
All right.
Chris, you're a peated Scotch guy, man. And you like drinking your peateds with cigars. What's your take on just layering Laphroaig with that KFC?
I think it's great. I think the argument against it and say it's too much smoke, but man, you can't ever have too much of a good thing, right? So I mean, chocolate ice cream is great, but when you put chocolate syrup on top of it, it's even better, right? So I think the flavors work great together. And I always tell people this, the Kentucky fire cured cigar doesn't taste like it smells. It smells a lot more intense. And don't get me wrong, you're getting a lot of those hardwood flavors like Chris talked about when he was describing the cigar. But like I said, man, they blend really well. There's a You know, I'm smoking the I'm actually doing the Swamp Rat, which got a little Candela wrapper on it, and you know, same thing, a little bit of sweetness, just like you get on the back end of that of this Laphroaig 10 that I'm drinking. So I think they were made for each other, man. It's like, you know, it's just waiting for these two to get together and start hearing the song "Endless Love" playing in the background.
Anyway, let's show the slide, please. That's just a little bit on the KFC itself, and so there you could see like the wrapper, binder, and filler. And you know, we've got a great blend going in Nicaraguan, Brazilian, and Kentucky fire cured. But you know, I cannot stress enough, the body is a medium bodied cigar. It seems, if you smell it, that it's going to be incredibly robust and full. It's really medium. And yes, you get all those flavors. Simon's having a cigar, so I'll go back to him and I'll ask him later what he thinks. But it actually is quite a pleasant blend together. So, Chris, anything new happening
At ABC?
Yeah.
Now, yeah, we're ready to get the state open back up. You know, Florida's kind of starting to ease back into things a little bit, and Memorial Day weekend coming up this weekend, it's going to be a little different. But you know, it is barbecue first. It's always been kind of the start of the tourism season here in Florida. You know, when people come down, but us Floridians, you know, that live here, we do the same thing. We have cookouts and stuff, so you're going to be firing up the barbecue grill. So why not have you're smoking some ribs or smoking a brisket? How about some smoky scotch and a smoky cigar?
You could have it in this beautiful cocktail, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm not tooting my own horn, but it is quite refreshing. But you can have it at your barbecue, and it's a great way for you guys to enjoy and you can try that smoky pina colada, which is amazing with Laphroaig. So, Chris, I want to thank you for joining us. And you know what? I think it's that time where I want to check in to the rest of the Zoom lounge, because I think Joey's falling asleep over there, and Felipe, and I think we got someone else that jumped into that Zoom lounge. But let me go around the horn, and I'll start with the man that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He's the founder of Drew Estate Cigar Company. He goes by many names, not that dude, but he's gracefully joining us today. He's currently the president of Drew Estate, the first and fourth president of Drew Estate, and we're super honored to have him. I'm super honored to have him. And this is the part of the show where I just turn over the reins and just give it over to Jonathan Drew. So JD, welcome to Sticks and Sips, big episode 6, man. I can't believe we've been on this long. So welcome, brother.
Well, after that introduction, all I can do is fuck it up. So, thanks for the nice introduction, and it's been a great show. I mean, I remember the Chris. Hey, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Joey, Chris, Felipe, Simon. I remember the first time meeting you. Big fan for many years now. I tracked you down a couple of times throughout the years, and listening to you. What'd you say, brother?
No, just we had some good times, shared some nice cigars and whiskey together.
And like I said, being a fanboy for you and the things that you've accomplished, and joining us, you spending some time with us on the show. The guys were so pumped up and excited. So a million thank yous for participating with us on the Sticks and Sips. It meant a tremendous amount to us, and so I think that's first. But Frank, I got to tell you is that it's great to see everybody having fun. Joey, I recognize the shirt because that was the shirt you were wearing with Shepard Fairey when you were in Canada.
Oh yeah, my Batman shirt.
That's right.
Can't miss it. But I got my scarf though. I got my Laphroaig scarf because it's so cool tonight in South Florida.
Did you get one for everybody?
No.
That's nice. Sounds familiar. That's the problem with Joey.
One
but anyway,
of one.
So,
but JD, I got a question for you, man. Because you and Joey were like at the heart of of bringing a product like KFC, which I think was hearkening back to a very classic style of cigar, or a very classic style of tobacco production. But what was the impetus to really kick KFC into the market?
You broke up for 1 second there. What was the what?
What was the impetus for bringing a cigar like a KFC into the market? You know?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to I think from the Drew Estate side, Frank, it's about we get lost in our expression. You know, our imagination have run wild from building La Gran Fabrica to each of the brands, creating new segments, whether it was infusing, you know, coffee to cigars. We started early on with back. I'm sure Simon remembers, and Chris, back in the days of Allied Domecq, when they owned Sauza and they owned Kahlua. And, you know, being a very young age, me as well as the company, getting to work with a multinational conglomerate on the Kahlua brand, you know, in response and following acid and the things we did there. So moving from the acid infused cigars and that concept, which was really a new market segment and an industry changer, very disruptive, to then the coffee infused segment, started with the, you know, obviously with the Kahlua and then to Java and tobacco and all that. When it came to KFC, it was really one of these, you know, the difference between, you know, your seed varietal, your land and country of growth, and then your processing side. So it was really about, you know, how you put those three different parts together. And on the processing side of it, watching, you know, how the tobacco farmers for hundreds of years have taken tobacco and fire cured it. It's just the type of tobacco that they made was more for pipe tobacco. It was for chew. So those kind of tobaccos that were really originally, that's what they used for in Kentucky. And as we started to bring that methodology and that processing to a premium leaf, you know, it's really, it was an incredibly special taste and aroma. And at the end of the day, I mean, if you go whether you're smoking a grain to make a peated scotch, or you're smoking fish, or you're in your backyard smoking a steak as opposed to grilling a steak, that smoky flavor, that smoky taste. I go to Japan a lot, not as much recently, but that they call it there the taste of the smell of the sea, the taste of the sea. It just you know, it's like having Laphroaig your first time. It's almost this mind explosion where you're like, I can't believe it. And it was really happened organically, just spending a lot of time with the farmers. So that's pretty much, you know, it. I think the best things we've created, whether it's in the premium cigar space, booze space, food space, you know, a lot of times it's just from mixing and challenging yourself and a lot of failure. You fail and fail, you keep blending it, it's failing, you release a brand, you lose your ass. But when those things hit, when those creations become accepted or successful, whatever to you of success, whatever that is, man, they become unchallenged. And Kentucky Fire Cured is that fierce competitor. It's unchallenged. And it will never be challenged in its segment. It will forever be the king of the Kentucky, of that fire cured segment, forever. It's undefeatable. So, you know, that's that mountaintop moment. It's not Drew Estate's biggest brand, but it is indeed one of our most special and highly connected, in my opinion, to the Scotch and whiskey world. So that's my little addition for tonight. I mean, I've been enjoying this show, Frank. So thanks for having me on for a minute. But I want to hear about what's going on with everybody else.
All right. So thank you so much, JD, on that. Chris, Gwaltney, I'm gonna jump on you. Well, you know, in a figurative sense. So
Yeah, that's against the employee handbook, bro.
yes, it is, but he's not an employee. But anyway, Chris, how does KFC do over at ABC for Drew for us, and what are consumers saying?
It's a strong brand, you know, and I think, you know, like you said, it's not for everybody. So there's two types of KFC smokers. Or two types of people. There's people who love KFC and people who don't like it. I think most of the people who don't like it haven't really given it a chance. So, or maybe haven't paired it with the right thing. But if you pair it with this stuff, I think you'll come to appreciate it, you know. But it does well. It's a good brand for us. It does really well for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to go to Felipe because he's kind of like taking a nap there while he's having a cigar. Felipe,
What's going on,
listen,
Frank?
I'm going to introduce Felipe. He's the not only is he kind of a guy that has hospitality in his blood and has been an integral part of a lot of different venues in South Florida, and he's the whiskey expert I go to. I call him what to talk to me about whiskey, and he's also the co-founder of Whiskey Mash with me. So this is the Whiskey Mash shirt. Where is it? So the Miami Whiskey Mash. So this is a big festival. We said we're not celebrating whiskey enough. There isn't enough whiskey festivals happening in Miami that we can go to. So we launched our first one in 2015. And it's been a great run so far. We kind of dodged COVID-19 on the last one, and
2 weeks.
by a week, So it's been great. Felipe, welcome to Sticks and Sips, and talk to me. I know you're a Drew State fan as well. What are you smoking tonight?
Thank you, Frank. Today I am on a little Underground Shade. I already had my KFC. Very nice, very big cigar. I'm a big proponent of cigars with peated scotches. I think that Simon was kind of talking about it, how you have different types of smoke and different types of peat coming with different whiskeys. I think that there are different types of smoke. You're not going to smoke meats necessarily the same way, or you're not going to smoke fish the same way. And so the same with cigars and peated scotches. I think that they can go hand in hand. The KFC with some of the Laphroaigs that I was having a little bit earlier, just to show a little bit of what I got going on over here.
You're going to show off. You're going to show off because
yeah,
you've got some
I'm going to
Laphroaig
show off. I
that
didn't have any.
no one
I
else
didn't
has
have
got.
any, I didn't have any regular 10-year-olds, so I pulled out some of the stuff that I got, and I got some PX Cask, and the sweetness really balanced out so well with that. The peat from the Laphroaig, and with the cigar, it's just perfect. So obviously I'm sitting outside, not as hot today as it's been other days. So perfect weather to kind of sit out here, hang out with you guys, enjoy a nice cigar, a couple nice whiskeys, wander through my Laphroaig selection, and get to hear you guys talk about this stuff.
Well, that's awesome, man. So, I mean, I think we've been very honored to have, and I just want Simon to hear this. Our good friend Eddie Olivari, working with Beam Centauri, goes, I'm bringing Simon Brooking to the Whiskey Mash.
Mm-hmm.
And basically both of us were like, say what? and we're like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And for everyone that was able to, that has been there over, I think, Simon, we're doing like 3 years, maybe 4 years of Whiskey Mash. And we're always honored to have you come around and be part of the festival. And we're hoping that 2021 we'll be able to have another one. So Flip, that's my boy Flip. You're gonna catch him at International Smoke. That's a Michael Mina restaurant. I'm gonna give a shout out to Gerald Chin if he's tuning in, because he's our guy, right?
G-Man.
G-Man loves his Liga Nines. He's a rum guy, but we're gonna get him into freaking some peated. We're gonna get him into some peated whiskey. Trust me on this, and it's gonna be great. So, Flip, thanks for being here. Chris
Absolutely.
Brower. Chris, what's up, homie? You awake?
I got muted there. Yeah, I'm awake. What's up, man? How you doing?
Man, talk to me, man. I know you're a whiskey guy. You kind of like keep it on the DL, But I know you drink a whole mess of different stuff, man. What's your take on Laphroaig? What's your take on KFC?
Well, Fire Cure is, I would say, absolutely one of our most unique cigars, and honestly, probably one of the best pairing cigars out there for any type of whiskey. If you get into scotches, Irish whiskeys, they go across, they cover that reinforcement like you talked about. With bourbon, you get the contrast you spoke about before. It's got a lot of potential when it comes to pairing. And with Laphroaig, drinking it straight, you talk about smoke on top of smoke. But what I found is that Laphroaig actually knocks the smoke down on the Fire Cure cigar, and allows you to actually pick up a lot of the other nuances that are in there in that cigar. So You would think it would be too much, but it is not. So, but tonight I'm actually pairing it with your Isla Campfires.
How'd you?
That's an awesome
Cheers,
drink,
man. I've got a little bit left, so Slancha,
yeah,
I
it worked
appreciate
out
that,
really
man.
well.
I appreciate that. So,
Yeah, it's like sour, sweet, and smoky all together. It's incredible.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. That you know, it took a lot of trial and error and about a good 3/4 of a bottle of experimentation, which everyone in the Moreno household enjoyed. So, Simon,
Yeah,
Simon, I know you're sitting there quietly and you're just watching this mayhem go on. But Simon, how's your cigar? How's your pairing going?
It's fantastic. I mean, you know, it's about connections. It's you know, seeing Jonathan after so many years and meeting yourself and Felipe and to see this marriage of culture and craft between the Laphroaig, which uses bourbon casks from Kentucky. We use Maker's Mark bourbon barrels. So with that quarter cask paired with the KFC is really a great marriage, a marriage made in heaven. You know, and the peat is such a magical element for us. It lends a special layer. You know, they found human remains in the peat bogs centuries old. There's a preservative quality to the peat. So it must be carried over in the whiskey. I should know. I'm 70 years old. So
all right.
But if I could offer a toast as we start to
Please
wrap up, and this, so it goes something like this, and it's the horse and mule live 30 years and know nothing of wines and beer. The goat and sheep at 20 die with never a taste of Scotch or rye. The cow drinks water by the ton. At 18, the cow is mostly done. The dog at 16 cashes in without the aid of rum or gin. The cat in milk and water soaks, and then in 12 short years she croaks. The modest, sober, bone-dry hen lays eggs for nogs and dies at 10. But ginful, sinful, Scotch-soaked men survive for 70 years and 10. And some of us, though mighty few, stay pickled till we're 102.
Slancha, yes, yes, sir.
Slan.
Nice, love it.
Slan.
Amazing, amazing. I will say this. So,
Master
you know,
of the toast.
I wanted to say this. You know, Simon, when I asked you, you know, when you started as a master ambassador, I go, you know, I've met a lot of ambassadors, and they all have this common theme. The performing arts is always in their background. So I know that's in your background. So would you, you know, tell us a tale or two of your performing arts background?
Well, yeah, it's a great training ground for the whiskey business because it's about getting the message across to the masses, to the people. So you're always playing to the little old lady in the back row. But certainly I got the opportunity to do a show on Broadway with Liam Neeson, and I went on, and my character had to make breakfast for him. It was kind of a morning after, and I actually had to, with a flame on Broadway, make this breakfast for him, and I was just praying and hoping to God that I didn't set fire to Liam Neeson. That would have been the end of my career. That happened. So, but you go with the flow, you know.
Did you tell him? Please tell me you told him. We don't have a lot of money, but what I do have is a certain set of skills of cooking eggs and bacon.
I have a certain set of skills. Yeah. And hopefully those skills won't set fire to you.
And that you do, Simon. So cheers to you, because I think that's
Cheers.
you know, it's one of the most beautiful the performing arts are something that are very underserved, and we must celebrate them because they create the next whiskey ambassadors of the world, correct?
Absolutely. Cheers. I'll drink to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. And last but not least, I've got Joey. I'm sorry, man. I kind of skipped you over.
That's all right, man.
I know you've got your train spotting due that you did just for this episode.
I bleached it out. Blondes have more fun. That's what they told me anyway, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. On lockdown, I don't know how much fun you can have.
Yeah,
But, it's been a great, man. I love this. This is a great episode. I mean, I love getting back into Laphroaig, especially after this. I've been on a three-plus year run of mezcal, which was, you get your smoke out of there as well. That's everybody's first when they first hit it. What I found is that the smoke has disappeared from it completely for me. I don't taste the smokiness that I did when I first entered into drinking mezcal. And to come back to Laphroaig and again get whammed right in the face, go, no, it's right here. It never left. It's right here in this bottle. The smoke is back. It never left you. You just have to go back.
Guess who's back?
It is back, and it hits you right. It really does. Like they say, man, it hits you right in the face, and it's wonderful. The great thing about smoke, whether it's coming from a cigar like KFC, whether it's coming from a scotch like a Laphroaig, it's such a human thing. It's built into all of us. It's in our DNA to appreciate and look for smoke and fire. That's innate human nature going on right
Primal.
there. That's why we gravitate towards it, and that's why I like it.
Absolutely.
Joey, if I could say, train spotting, choose life.
Choose scotch. Choose scotch.
Choose Laphroaig.
And choose Laphroaig. There you
Well,
go.
I'll tell you this. So I was fortunate enough, maybe is it 2 or 3 years ago?
I know where you're going.
Yeah, we get the invite from my good friend Felipe. Simon's coming down to do Burns night. So usually Simon, we would do a very informal Burns night, meaning we'd grab a whole bunch of whiskey. We'd read about 2 lines of Robert Burns poetry, because that would be probably the maximum, and my favorite was Ode to a Mouse, and that was it. And then we just drink scotch with the rest of our friends and celebrate Robbie Burns. Felipe says we have something special going on, and we're having Simon Brooking in for a Burns night dinner.
Frank, I want to interrupt you right there. You mentioned it earlier. It was really thanks to Eddie Olivari that a lot of that came to be. He reached out to me right when Simon was booking his travel into South Florida, and he's like, we have a very unique opportunity and Simon's going to be in town. Can we do something? And I was like, absolutely. And, I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I just knew that we had to jump on that. And I called you and I was like, Frank, we got to do this. Like it was an awesome night. That was really fantastic. The Ode to the Haggis is great. Anybody that has never had haggis needs to have some proper haggis. It is very underappreciated, I think, and the myth around the food, I think, scares people a little bit more than it should, because it's rather enjoyable and a very versatile, if you will, piece of food.
Well, we definitely, thank you, Felipe, because we definitely had a wonderful meal that day. We had a gigantic slab of foie gras, and I believe it was with the 10, Joey. I'm not quite sure, but it was with the 10, and it was a gigantic. Yes, it was.
Oh, it was magical. It was absolutely magical with the smoked eel in the center of the foie gras, and with the Laphroaig, it was ridiculous stuff. I shouldn't have been there. It was like, oh my God, I pinched myself. Like, I can't believe I'm here eating this food, drinking this amazing scotch, hearing Simon just blast out amazing toast after amazing toast. It was one of those events where you will remember it forever. I remember it fondly. But I'll tell you what, Frankie, there's a shit ton of questions in the chat group that you need to answer.
Jeez. I'm sorry. All right. But before I get to answer those, though, I know besides the Laphroaig, you are having something else, because I know you.
I'm drinking Hollywood mezcal. This is the one that really started me off. This is the one that got me into it, that hooked me line and sinker, and it's put me down this rabbit hole that has no end. And just, man, anytime you see a rabbit hole, just go for it, man. Go head first.
Absolutely.
Go for it. Take the experience, hit it all the way. You're gonna find stuff that is just like, you're gonna spit right out, but then, man, a week later you're gonna come back. I try it again, and it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's
Mezcal.
a cigar that you didn't really get the first time, a scotch, the same thing. Go back and rethink what your first thought was about it, and you'll see, man, it changes you. All that type of exploration, it just builds on you, and you have a good time doing it too, man. It's fun.
I think so. As the Ali puts, is like that stony minerality, which I call like that licking some wet cement. And much people might say that, why would you drink that? It's the same as
it's the same thing with scotch too. When you get that, people say, "Oh, it's got Band-Aid." My niece
that Band-Aid's delicious.
But it's delicious. I mean, that taste is because it's in your memory. That Band-Aid-ish, that iodine thing is in your brain. It's in your DNA. And when you hit it, it's just like, wow. It brings you to another place, And that's what makes all of this type of stuff special.
Well, before I go to the questions, Simon, go ahead.
Oh, just a shout out. Bean Santori's got a new mezcal called Brujo, which means the shaman. And definitely check it out. It's just coming into the market. Some great mezcals coming from that brand.
Nice.
I love the similarities, the parallels between a mezcal and smoky whiskey. There's more similarities to celebrate, and it'd be fun to do a mezcal Isla whiskey pairing one day.
I'm
Sign me up for that one.
All right, let's
I'm
go.
on.
Sign me on. Episode 7.
Yo, give me a minute. But I will say this. If you ever get to see Simon, ask him what's in the boot, because what's in the boot,
Always.
all I will say is the beautiful, there it is. There it is. It's the beautiful marriage. And Simon, forgive me, this is the worst description of it. It's the marriage of a Band-Aid that's been sitting on the beach with a stick of juicy fruit gum.
It's
there it is.
Oh, little cartridge.
Little cartridge. Beautiful.
I got one of those.
Thanks Felipe. Yeah, great. All right, so now I'm on to the questions, because I know I'm way behind and we're going over time, but I love all you guys. Thank you for being part of the Zoom Lounge, man. I love you guys. So stick around, because I'm gonna have some questions for you. So I'm sorry, man. So I was so excited today. I forgot to show off the ashtray that I'm giving away. This is a Drew Estate ashtray, Pappy Van Winkle ashtray, pewter. Plus, I've got like some secret stash Laphroaig stuff that I'm so honored that Simon sent my way, and I'm going to send them to you as well. So I'm excited. And Murray O'Donnell. Hey, Frank. What makes Laphroaig so distinctive from other peated malt whiskey? I love the PS cask, by the way, and it pairs really well with the DE Liga Privada L40. Nice. So, Simon, what makes the Laphroaig so distinctive from other peated malt whiskey?
Well, it's a combination of factors. It's size and shape of the stills, it's mashing times, fermentation times, it's the warehouses by the sea that, when we've got a distillery a half a mile down the road from us, close, but it's all those variations. It's not one thing, it's a combination of things. And I love the PX cask. And Felipe was talking about it as well. The sherry cask Laphroaigs, what we've tasted tonight are all bourbon cask, but the sherry casks, whether it's a PX or triple wood, are beautiful whiskeys to be sipped and savored, and will bring out different flavors. Those sherry casks, the sweetness, those dark fruit notes are going to bring out fruit notes in the cigars as well, in the tobacco. So it's really a great opportunity to experiment with all those different flavors. There's no bad whiskey.
There's no bad whiskey. That is a huge, huge statement. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. There's no bad whiskey. So Murray, congratulations. We have Brian Bowe. Why do some people think older Scotch is better? You know, Simon, I'm going to throw that one to you because I want to take the rest of the evening off.
That goes back to when we were talking about when a single malt became a category in the 1950s and 60s because there was so much overstock. There was whiskey that had been sitting around since pre-World War II. And so the likes of, say, a Glenlivet or Glenfiddich, they had stocks that were 15, 20, 25 years old, and they were selling it as more exclusive. It is rarer whiskey. That doesn't mean it is better. And I think the Laphroaig 10 is a great example of that, to show you that it's a different style. It's a little more boisterous. And it depends on the mood that you're in and the location and what you're pairing with. So that it really is a matter of personal preference and time and location.
Frank, if I could,
yes,
Frank, if I could jump in, I think that a lot of what Simon is saying is true. I think that older whiskey, given the aging process, there's just less of it, right? There's less of it in the barrel, given the amount of time that it's just been sitting around. It's something that's rarer, and perception is that if there's less of it, it's more unique, and as a result, it's better. But any master distiller, and Simon can back me on this, will tell you that whiskey's ready to drink when she's ready to drink, and every barrel is different, and every distillation is different. But the public perception is that 30-year-old, 15-year-old scotches are just better than 7-year-old or 10-year-old or 12-year-old scotches, and it's just not true. The flavors are right when they're right. I remember sitting down with different distillers and them telling me that, we could pull a barrel at 17 years instead of 15, and the differences are monumental within 2 years. And it's not that it's better just because it's 17 years old. It's just that's when it peaked. But people think that because there's less of it and it's more unique, that it has to be better. And it doesn't have to be. You could drink a 40-year-old scotch. It just tastes like you're licking the inside of a wood barrel. There's nothing about that that's actually pleasant.
And I would, the only thing I would add to that is that there's that the interaction with wood and a distillate. There's the additive faction, the additive piece where the wood interacts it in additive. There's subtractive and then interactive. So in all those three phases, time is an element that is hard to, it's really hard to gauge. And how do you say 10 is better than 12 or 12 is better than 10?
No.
You can't. It's really, I say try it and see what fits your palate, because I really do think that that's the beauty of pairing, is finding what you like. And the only way you do that is through experimentation and finding, trying all the different types that you can get your hands on and experiencing that as a feature. So Brian, congratulations. So I have DE Buyer. I don't know what that means, but hello. What scotch would you recommend to someone who is not familiar with it but enjoys great rum? Thanks. Ooh, that's a hard question. Chris Gwaltney, you want to answer that one?
Repeat the question.
It said, what scotch would you recommend to someone who's new to the category? They're not familiar with scotch, but they really like rum.
I don't know. It's one. It's not peaty, but the Balvenie 14-year-old, the Caribbean cask. It's finished in a Caribbean cask, so it's very approachable. If for a single malt, not a blend. Would you agree?
That's kind of what went to mind. But Simon, what do you think? Someone who's a rum lover but wants to step into the Scotch world.
I would suggest the Auchentoshan three wood. Fantastic. Aged in bourbon and two different types of sherry, Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. There's a sweetness to it that I find the sweetness that you're going to find with the sugars that you're getting from a rum cask. So my recommendation would be Auchentoshan 3-wood.
Love it. And I've had Auchentoshan 3-wood. I've had Belvini Caribbean cask, and they're both fucking amazing. So I'll leave it there. I'm sorry to say that. It's late in the freaking show and I've had a lot to drink. So anyway, congratulations, D.E. Buyer. Get yourself some Auchentoshan, get yourself some Balvenie. Eric Fitzgerald, can we get an explanation of the different areas in Scotland for Scotch and drink characteristics from each region? All right, so I'm going to answer that one because I don't want to put anyone on the spot. But my good friend, Robin Robinson says, now Robin Robinson was my guest at episode 2. So I will say, go get the book, Whiskey Course. It's an amazing book, talks about whiskey, and it'll talk about the different areas of Scotland, in that it was a marketing move to kind of start to label Highland, Lowland, Speyside, and Islas are Islas, but not all Islas are exactly the same. But it meant it was a really good way to kind of put whiskeys into a basket. But because whiskeys reside in that basket, it doesn't mean that they're all the same. So not all Highlands are the same, because you can have a Highland peated and a Highland non-peated, and they're very different. So the areas of Scotch are, I would say, dig a little deeper. So if you want to start with the peated and non-peated, and start there. And then there's the blends and the single malt blends and the single grain blends and true blended Scotch. It's really crazy, but it is worth going down that rabbit hole, to use Joey's term. Go down the rabbit hole, find out that this distillery and this distillery are separated by region, but are similar in nature. And a peated Highland is a peated whiskey, but it's different from a peated Isla, and discover them on their own merits. So experiment, Eric. That's all I could tell you. Experiment and find what you like. Start with what you normally drink and go from there. So next up, Artie Hessen. What is good food to pair with KFC and Laphroaig? Woo! Simon, I'm going to go to you. What do you want to pair? I mean, you're having chili tonight, but what do you want to pair with a Laphroaig and a KFC?
Well, food of the region goes well with whiskeys, and I would say tobacco of the region as well. So so the island whiskeys go well with seafood, scallops, oysters, the clams. If you want to do a Highland whiskey, goes well with beef, with lamb, with venison. But don't let and chocolate. Chocolate's fantastic. A nice dark chocolate, particularly with those sherried whiskeys. Chocolate and cigars and Stilton, the blue cheese, that funky mold that we get that influences our that dank, what I like to call dank influence there. It's in the cigars, it's in the cheese, it's in the whiskey.
I love it. I think that blue cheese thing, we get it a lot when we pick up a bottle, and you get that first blast, and it's seawater and the inside of a shoe, and it's just that beautifulness that we get with mezcal, which we call funk. You get it with the Caribbean, with the Jamaican rums, and you get this beautiful blast of dankness. So thank you for the dankness. That just makes it wonderful. Uh, so Eric, I would say, seafood, and mind you, if you ever get to see Simon, every now and then he does this massive pairing with Laphroaig and oysters, and that's going to change your life, because just oysters and Laphroaig, that's just magic. That's just complete magic. So, last question. I believe this is our last question. No? All right. Artie Hessen, what is good? No. So that was it. That was our last one. I'm sorry. So, Artie, get some oysters, get some seafood, the expensive stuff, not the stuff in a can. So, get that, get some Laphroaig. All right. So, here it is. I believe we're finally at the end of the show. I only went over by 24 minutes. So, wow. I tried. So so first of all, I want to say, last call for me, because I'm done. But I will say this. Remember, in the time of COVID-19, I mean, we're coming out of it little by little. Please support your local stores that support Drew State. There's a lot of bars and restaurants that are opening up right now. Do what you can to help them out, whether it's takeout service, curbside, whatever you can, to kind of help out the cause. And we'll see the end of the tunnel very, very soon. I want to give a special thanks to my guests, Mr. Simon Brooking from Beam Suntory, from Laphroaig, and the many other brands that he's got. So, Simon, could you give us a toast on the way out here?
Absolutely. I want a shout out to the folks at ABC Liquor Stores for their support of our brands, and to all of you, to Whiskey Mash, and to Drew Estate for these amazing cigars. Here's the last toast of the night. It's short and sweet, and it's a little bit of Kentucky. It's a little bit of Scotland. It goes like this: May there be no hell, and if there is, I'll see you at the bar.
Slanja.
So I couldn't be more honored to have Simon on as a guest tonight. Simon, thank you so much. Chris Gwaltney from ABC, always honored to have you, my friend, on. And I know that you're a big Peated guy, and the idea of pairing Laphroaig and KFC to me was something that you laid the seed, its seed in there, and finally to have a show about that is awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, like I said, my goal in life, give Pete a chance. And a wise Scottish man once told me, the longer you grow your beard, the shorter you can wear your kilt.
All right. So I'm not going there. Chris Brower, my man, dude, he's all cut and looking fresh right now, but I'm waiting for all that hair to grow out post COVID-19. So
it's coming back. So
I love you, bro, and it's always good working with you. Your work with ABC on behalf of Drew State is phenomenal. I would just say keep it up, man, and we'll be hanging soon.
Good. Other than the buyer, it's a great company, I have to say. I really enjoy them.
Wow, we got there. All right, so Felipe, he's my partner in Whiskey Mash. We're hoping there's going to be a Whiskey Mash 2021. We'll see how things work out.
Absolutely.
But we're going to see you at International Smoke. I know we will, when things start opening up. And what a great name, International Smoke. Shout out to Gerald Chin and Michael Mina out there. And we're going to get this going.
Yeah.
And if you guys are in Miami, come down, check out the restaurant. Felipe is kind of one of the most brilliant minds in whiskey down here. So chat him up. He's a man. See you later. And last but not least,
cheers, guys.
Creative director for Drew Estate, Joey Drew. JD popped in for a minute, man. So you got to take.
I know.
Take
I'm
this
not
one
hon-
home,
I'm
man.
not honored at all. I'm not honored to be here in any which way or form. I don't know any of you lowlifes. Never seen you before. I tell my wife, I was like, yo, I was just, just doing my own thing, minding my own business at the end of the bar. I didn't talk to any of those guys over there. Didn't get into any of that.
Yeah, prove it.
Cheers, man. Cheers to everybody. Really great hanging with you guys. It's always great
Cheers.
to see Simon and hear the magic that comes from his golden voice. And just safe travels wherever you go. To each and every one of you on this group, and to everybody in the chat, man. Everybody that logged on to see a snippet or two of this, man. Cheers to you guys. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you live shortly. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers.
So, I just got to do a couple more shout outs to the marketing team for bringing Six Sips to life. Ron Corbello, Jack Hare, David Torres, the team that brings the all the tech and all the beautiful graphics. Drew Estate team, sales, warehouse, factory. We're still producing cigars during this time, taking every safety precaution we can to make sure that everybody has their cigars in place, including using a little bit of the force from the child here. It's not Baby Yoda, it's a child. So we're using the force here, and we're keeping those cigars out to you, keeping them produced, keeping them going, and our leadership that keeps us disruptive as hell. So with that, follow us on Drew Estate Cigar. You can follow me at Frankie_drinks. Do what you need to do. We're gonna come out of this stronger than before, and much like an Isla whiskey and a KFC, if you go down that rabbit hole, you'll be better for it. So with that, I'm signing off. The bar is closed, and good night, everybody.